And I think when you shift your mentality from I'm scared to do this to I'm not doing it for me, I'm doing it to help someone else. That was a big unlock for me. And I preach that to clients of if we're doing it for the right reasons, then yes, it might be uncomfortable, but we focus on the bigger reason and it's going to help us get through it. Welcome to CEOs on Video, the show to help you go from being the head of your business to the face and voice of your brand. If you're a CEO, a business owner, an entrepreneur who is involved in bringing a new business for your company, then you need to be putting out content. You are the subject matter expert in your business, and there's no one who can market it better than you can. In this show, I interview experts who are killing it online, using video, using digital media to grow their business, and we're going to show you how you can be doing the same. I have known Tyler Finley for a couple of years now. I think we first met in the Video Warriors group, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So several years ago, I think we got our start in video around the same time where we were really starting to lean into doing video as a business. And I've gotten to see your transformation over time, how your business has shifted and grown. And some of what you're doing now it really caught my attention, and I wanted to have you on the show. To give everyone some context, Tyler is from Buffalo, New York, and is the owner of Blue Dot Media, a video production and strategy company that helps businesses grow and scale using video. He's helped numerous businesses in the area grow their brand awareness, connect with their customers, and hire top-tier talent. He lives with his new wife as of June, their dog Da Vinci, and their cat Otis. So, Tyler, you've been crushing it in Reels and publishing short form content, which is something a lot of people are doing, and a lot of people aren't really still doing well. So first, kudos to you on that. But yeah, absolutely. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks. I'm stoked. It's an honor, and I appreciate you calling out that you've been watching me grow. And it's one of those things that I watch back and I go, oh, okay, I'm on the right path. So it's nice to be affirmed of that too. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's something we're going to dig into, but it goes, I think, to say I've seen your stuff over time, and we haven't had a direct conversation in at least a year, I would say. We've seen bumped into each other in comment sections, but we haven't had a direct face-to-face in a long time. So it just goes to say people are noticing, and I think that's one of the really powerful things of putting things out on that. So something we talked about prior to hopping on that I think is just super, super interesting. You said that you don't think there's a business problem that video can't help. Can you just break that down for me?
Over the past few years of running a business and also starting one right before 2020, I was able to see a bunch of unique problems that we had never seen before, learn from them, and almost made it an exercise of how can I do what I'm good at? How can I use what I'm good at, which is video and video strategy, to solve these specific problems? And I haven't come across the keyword is help, not necessarily solve every problem, but I think every business that has a challenge can be helped by using video and it's just a matter of figuring out what kind of video and where you want to plug it into the strategy. So the obvious ones that people think of are making ads, brand awareness, things like that. But a lot of people will always say, I just don't have time to do everything. I'm running out of time. A lot of business owners are like always stressed for time, whether it be running their business internally, trying to meet new clients, things like that. And video has such a good, unique quality to save incredible amounts of time. I don't think I've met a business owner who, after I tell them, if you have a 30 to 40 minute conversation with a new client, you can probably close them. And they go, yeah, 100%. So it's just a matter of getting that meeting with that one person and you can close them. But video allows you to take that 30 to 40 minute conversation, crunch it down into a 2-minute video, and then you can just clone yourself and put it out there 24/7 to have hundreds and thousands of those conversations. So when people do reach out to you, you're now having more meaningful conversations and not just telling people what you do and trying to explain why you're so good at it. And then I think video now, especially for if you're not a huge brand, kind of like we were talking about before we got started, if you're not a huge brand and you don't have the name to do the heavy lifting for you in terms of establishing trust and expertise, video and consistent video is vital to getting people to know who you are and hear your thoughts and why you're a thought leader, and just establish yourself as someone who knows what they're talking about, and really just establishing trust with them. And then I'd say a third one would be just creating consistent processes that your business can use, whether that be internal or external. Having videos allows you to create consistent, repeatable processes.
100%. So many people think they still put so much focus on using video as a sales and marketing tool, of running an ad or creating a commercial. And that is still valuable, but it's only like a fraction of what video can really do for the average business owner. Because you may run a couple of ad campaigns a year, but just on the day-to-day basis of how many people you can interact with that day is usually a big predictor of sales KPIs the following week, following month. I'm sure you've bumped into, if you have a busy week of meetings where you're talking to a lot of people, business is probably going to do pretty okay, the next month. But if you have a week of empty meetings, nothing, you're not talking to anyone new, sales suffers. Video lets you do it asynchronously. And so many people just aren't thinking about it that way of, you put in some time and effort and energy and resources up front, but then it's just, you get to leverage it infinitely.
Yeah, infinitely. When you're sleeping, when you're watching the game, it's working for you. It just takes that initial investment, and getting over the fact that whatever insecurity you might have, and realizing that this is the best way to grow your business and to spread your message.
You said something interesting there of getting over insecurity. I don't know if you've seen this, but I see that as such a big blocker for so many people, where there's something stopping them. And it's not usually the money. That's the case for some. Sometimes it's the act of it itself, but usually there's some rooted insecurity of, I just don't want to be on camera.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had so many different types of people in front of my camera, from successful business people to ex-NFL players. My most recent client was a combat veteran of 8 years, and she's a mother of two and runs a successful business. So she told me that being on camera and doing the video was physically top 5 hardest things she's ever done. So I think everybody has a degree of insecurities, whether maybe it's a physical insecurity or of how they look, but also it's a lot of times like, I don't want to sound stupid to not necessarily my customers, but my competition. I think a lot of people are afraid of, my competition's going to see this and they're going to start nitpicking it. And I tell them, like, let them. If you're the expert at what you're doing and you're doing it first, they're just going to be nitpicking out of, damn, I should have done that first, or he's out in front of me now, and now we're just going to jealously nitpick it. And you're always going to have people scrutinizing you. The more you put yourself out there, you're drawing that attention. I always tell people, like, I'm bald, I have a small nose, I don't like my voice. Like, I totally get not being comfortable on camera, but all uncomfort comes from not doing something enough. It's really just more repetition, and really just getting over the fact that I have this goal of helping more businesses or helping more customers. And for me to really just crush that goal, I need to get over this thing and realize that the video and consistent video is the best way for me to reach as many people as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you shift your mentality from, I'm scared to do this, to, I'm not doing it for me, I'm doing it to help someone else, that was a big unlock for me. And I preach that to clients of, if we're doing it for the right reasons, then yes, it might be uncomfortable, but we focus on the bigger reason and it's going to help us get through it.
I always tell people, I always tell people, like, as long as we're talking about what you know, and we're not trying to start talking about things you don't know, because that's like the trendy thing, you have nothing to worry about. If you know it and you're sound in that, then just don't let anybody shake you from that.
Yeah. In many ways, I think that this is why it's so important to work with the right person. Because there are people out there who have hired a production company, or they've hired a videographer to come in, and they think like their credentials were they had a nice camera, or what they thought was a nice camera was like a big rig and it seemed expensive, and that was the due diligence that went into it. And then they had a bad experience where they didn't interview them properly, or they didn't do some of the planning to help them feel comfortable and overcome some of that. That's why, like, you have to find someone who you gel with. Not everyone. You can't pick someone based on their portfolio, because to think that's going to be what you get just because they did it with someone else is ridiculous for this type of work.
Yeah, 100%. I think portfolio matters, and year matters to an extent, but I've had actually recently was working with a nonprofit who I work with regularly, and they're like, we're so happy you're back here. And everybody talks about how much you make them feel calm and at ease. And I think that's because I have a pretty even keeled personality where I'm not too animated, which I always think is a bad thing. I wish I was more like upbeat and stuff. But I'm good friends with a photographer who, when he's shooting, he's dancing around and people love him. So it's really just a matter of, like you said, just finding people you gel with, but also ones that have work that is also can deliver results. You don't want to work with just a big company, because a lot of times I hear like the big company, you become a small drop in that bucket, and they forget that they're working with someone who maybe hasn't done this before, or they're just moving too quick and they have to get through stuff. So that's why having those initial discovery meetings before any contract is signed is really important for both of you. You don't want to work with a client who you don't gel with.
Yeah, I'm sure we've both done those projects, and you think it'll be fine, and then it's just not a good fit for anyone. It's not a pleasant experience for them. It's not fun for us as the provider, and it's really important to have that be a positive experience on both sides, because like video is not going away. It's not something that's going to fade in 10 years and have some other thing. It's an entire format of media. And while the trends may change and the platforms will change and algorithms and all that stuff, the core concept of presenting information visually is never going away. It's only going to become more important. So when a business owner or a marketing director or founder comes back to you and says, we don't need video, how do you tackle that? I'm really curious.
Depends who I'm talking to. If it's the business owner and they say they don't need video, maybe they think they don't need video. If I'm talking to a marketing team that says they don't need video, they're wrong. But I think it's important to say, for me, I always think that the customer isn't always right, but they are valid in the way they're thinking. So just because they say, like, hey, we don't need video, maybe they think in their mind video is just a commercial or it's an ad, and they go, we don't need that. And maybe they don't. Maybe they're right in that. So I think it's my job and our job to say, what have you been doing currently that's working in your strategy, and where are you plugging in video? And if they say, oh, we've done all these ads and stuff and they didn't work, okay, maybe we don't need that type of video. Maybe you need videos on your website that are going to let those ads work better, because you get people all in through these ads. What's there to then take that lead and continue the decision making process? But also, if it's just a marketing person and they say that they don't need video, they're thinking it just from the marketing lens, and they're not always thinking about, oh, we've been having so many new hires and the owner or the managers are just so stressed out training people, or we're not getting consistent training to people, or we need hiring videos or process videos, whatever that might be. Or they don't know that the business owner has bigger goals for themselves and wants to establish themselves as a thought leader beyond just what their current business does. So I think it's really just our job to get as many people in the room or talking to the sales team and saying, how would video help you? Because I don't think I've met a salesperson who hasn't said, oh man, if I just had a video or something that did this for me, I would do so much better. So I think everybody's valid in saying they don't need a video, but that's just from their lens. So I say, can we maybe get some perspectives from other teams and go from there?
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people that lead to that in the industry, where video is the thing they're selling, is I want to make a video for your business. Do you have budget for that? And that's where it goes. And what kind of video becomes just whoever happens to be lean more into the commercial world or brand film, or they get pitched a testimonial package or something like that. Whereas video isn't the point. It's just the means of communicating, and it's just the best one that we have. But having a beautiful film, if it wasn't created to do something, is pointless. There's tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars get wasted on great looking stuff that doesn't actually do anything.
Yeah, two things. I always tell people, like, if I thought, and I might have heard this from the Video Warrior group, but it was great, where I always tell people, if selling potatoes is what was going to solve your problems, I'd be here with a sack of potatoes in front of you. But video is what's going to work and solve these problems these challenges that you have and achieve your goals. But also the point of just great looking video doesn't mean anything. I'm sure there's tons of movies out there we can think of that had millions of dollars dumped into them that everybody hates. Watch like the first Iron Man versus the latest Avengers. People love the first Iron Man way more than they like the current Avengers. The budget's probably 10 times. So it's really coming down to what story are you able to tell with those videos, and is it connecting with the audience the right way, but also looking good to a certain extent based on what you want your brand image to be.
Hey there, if you are hearing this and you think a podcast might be right for your business, then you're in luck. One of the services that we do over at Evoke Media Labs, which is the sponsor of this episode, is create podcasts for busy entrepreneurs like yourself. Having a podcast is an excellent way to showcase your thought leadership, your industry expertise, and build connections within your industry so that you can provide something valuable to your audience in a non-salesy way. Nobody wants to download an ebook in exchange for an email anymore. Having a podcast lets you nurture and build trust with your audience and lets them get to know you a little bit before and up until they're ready to actually have a conversation with you. So if that sounds like something that you want in your business, shoot us a message and we'll see if we're the right fit for you to help you launch and grow your show. All right, back to the episode. Yeah, you look at a very current example of Amazon spending $1 billion to produce the Lord of the Rings series, Rings of Power. The response has been, there's been people that are like, oh, it's pretty good. Like, I'm just happy to have more stuff to watch. It's set in this world and it's pretty and I like that. And other people are like, this is the worst egregious waste of money and Tolkien is rolling in his grave. And you've got, like, $1 billion is an inconceivable amount of money to spend on entertainment series. And just the fact that it goes to show budget is not the only factor.
Right.
Where there's been ample things of YouTubers producing incredible work for nothing, like probably like a couple $100 or free. And it does hundreds of millions of dollars in ad campaigns and brand deals.
Yeah. So I think it's finding that having good quality, but also making sure that we're not, like you said, we're not selling videos, we're selling solutions to problems. And the bigger the problems get, the more budget that is required and things like that. But
yeah, so I think a big factor that we tend to ignore, I mean, with video, and especially in terms of creating content, like social media content, public facing stuff, whether it's micro, whether it's YouTube content, whether like the format can vary. But the big thing that people forget is the binge factor. Like when you talk about putting stuff out consistently and having a consistent posting schedule, people counter. So I'm going to post today and people are going to watch it, and I'm going to post again tomorrow and people watch it. Then they're going to buy from me. Like, that's not really how it works. Like, people go from never hearing of you to watching everything you've uploaded for the last month or last year or whatever. And then they're going to take that next action because they just found you and you solved the right problem. Or maybe you didn't, and they won't call you or they won't book an appointment there. But if you've only uploaded like twice since 2015, you're not giving them a lot to work with to help them inform their decision making. But if I go to your account right now, like, there's a lot that I can go through. And okay, he seems like a decent guy. He knows what he's talking about. It looks good. So I feel pretty confident he could produce a similar result for me. And like, now it's just that call becomes about context rather than you having like persuade them. They're like, yeah, I know how to run a camera and like I can make video. Like, half the work is done for you. And I think that's something people tend to forget or not understand.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they think of like social media, like you said, they think like, okay, if I post 7 times this week, that means the same person is going to see that video 7 times and is going to create that lead. And I think there was a study from Google that says people need 7 hours of interaction before they really start to trust somebody. And the same thing, like the reason why you and I would talk to each other versus like a stranger. We know each other and we've had that FaceTime. We trust each other. And consistent video just allows you to build that FaceTime up and build that trust, as long as you're making sure it's valuable content to your audience. And it's not always about going viral. I have a lot of initial meetings where people say, how many views are we going to get or what? And that's their success metric, was like views and engagement, which is important. But I always tell people, like, even if you don't get any followers, but you have this library on whatever platforms you want that is for your target audience, that when you send someone there or they find you organically, they can then binge all your stuff and get just a feel of who they're going to be working with. And even if they don't reach out, they're going to know who you are if you ever do meet them, or you want to drive them to like your website, where then the more pillar type content will drive them deeper into their decision-making process and their research process. But I always tell people that video on social is a lot like billboards, where you put a post up, you put your billboard up, People drive by it on the way home from work, or on the way to work, and that's them scrolling by it. They get to see it once through the day, and it goes. And then, but the problem is you have 1,000 other billboards going up at the same time, and the big difference is that billboard comes down every day. So the more consistent you are, you're putting your billboard back up. So it's important to be consistent so you're always there. So when people do take that route home from work or scroll by it, excuse me one second, my dog is barking. Sorry, he always throws he never barks, of course. So yeah, when people are driving by it, they see your billboard and it's standing out and they're just getting that brand recognition. Like, I've seen that billboard every time. I've seen it 10 times this month, and I've always liked something they're doing. So they'll want to reach out or learn more about you.
Yeah, because you can just never be sure when the variables come together and you get them at the right time. Like, you can't control when it's delivered. You can't control when your users are active. You can't control who else, if there's a big flurry of activity and you get buried. But you can control publishing. Like, it's free to do. Like, back in the day when it was media buying, like, you bought your slot and you had that thing and it gave you an illusion of control where you got sold on some numbers of how many people you get to appear in front of. But even from the view and engagement thing, a lot of people bring that up. Even if you really just break down numbers, like if you publish a video on the big 3 short form content sites, like we're just like YouTube Shorts, Reels, and TikTok, and assuming that the content is decent and you tag it appropriately, titles and like those sort of things, like you're gonna get across the 3 of them, what do you think is like a really conservative estimate? Like, you're gonna get a couple hundred views, right? Assuming you do nothing else right. But like, to appear to the same number of people in person, and granted, like, what gets counted as a view is like really for TikTok is as soon as it's on the screen, or for Reels, I think TikTok is like 2 seconds. Reels, I think, is as soon as it pops up. So take it with a grain of salt. But to show up, even for a moment, in front of hundreds of people, nobody is doing that on a daily basis just as a person, unless you're a very public figure.
Yeah, that's going back to saving time. Where if you were able to go tell someone a tip, like 300 people a tip, like that would take you all day to find people who would even listen to it. But I think it's like going back to the billboard thing, it's a numbers game. And the more you put out there, the more at bats you have to connect with the right person, because it's not always just connecting with everybody. You want to make sure you're connecting with the person who needs what you're helping people with. And then they can go and then binge what you're doing. But okay, this guy has already helped me out so much. I want to work my way up the value ladder and maybe become a paying client and get everything he has to offer.
100%. And that's the game of actually providing value. So many people, I don't know how we're at the end of 2022 and there's still people pushing back on mostly TikTok, but like Reels and Shorts maybe to an extent. But TikTok, like, you bring up TikTok in a business meeting or in a discovery call, and people just assume that it's still a bunch of like tweens doing dorky dances or like getting weird. And it's just not true. That's a part of the platform. But I think like that on TikTok is the same as like C-SPAN on cable TV. Yeah, it's there, but it's not the majority. It's not all it is. And it's just crazy to think that. So has that been your experience as well?
Yeah, I think TikTok still gets laughed at. And I think a lot of that comes from these people have kids who are using TikTok. So that's the lens they're seeing it through. And they haven't used it themselves to see like TikTok's algorithm in terms of showing suggested content is so good. Like, it will learn you very quickly. But when you have like a stock account, it shows you all the goofy dances because that's what the kids are watching. And that's what takes time for them to learn it, as with any algorithm. But I always tell people it really comes down to, where is your ideal audience spending their time? And if they're not on TikTok, if you don't feel like they're on TikTok, then maybe we don't focus on that as hard. But if you already have vertical content, it doesn't hurt to put it there. So that way you have that channel open. Maybe your ideal client is more so Facebook heavy or LinkedIn heavy. Short form content, the format has proven to work. And even if people don't want to use TikTok, that TikTok type format of short form content, deliver quick hits of value, will work on any platform, whether that be Facebook, LinkedIn. I just think people maybe haven't downloaded the TikTok app, but they still like that format because they know this is going to be a really quick video. It's not going to be 10 minutes. It's going to be 30 seconds, and I don't have to commit too much of my time for it. They're gonna watch it. So it's really just coming down to figuring out where your audience is and how to meet them where they're at. Because TikTok isn't for everybody, and you don't always have to be dancing. I don't think I've ever danced on camera once. And there's businesses all over the world is crushing it with Instagram or TikTok, and it's just a matter of finding how to connect with your audience there.
And even like from the audience side, so many people, it's older than people think. Like if your audience is over 50, of your core people you're trying to reach, maybe not the best platform still. Like Facebook is probably still the place to go. But anything under that, I think they're probably there, or they will be. Like it's you look at the growth of that Facebook went through and Instagram a couple years later. The same thing is happening. It's just much quicker because TikTok went from being 4 years ago. It was a goofy place. It was wacky. It was all cosplay and it was very different. But now it's matured a lot.
Oh, 100%.
The algorithm is probably the best it's ever been in terms of figuring out what you like and delivering relevant content. Like you give it a week of using it for maybe an hour a day, and it gets to know you quite well.
Yeah. And like my mom, she always tells me she bought something she saw on TikTok. So like people are on there and they're buying just based off suggestions. And I think as long as you're making your content contextualized to the platform, you can see success. But I think a lot of people have that lens of, oh, it's goofy dancing, but also they don't want to start new somewhere. And they go, well, I'm already doing well on Instagram. I'm already doing well on Facebook. Why would I go over here? And that's just where people have to, that's where the attention's going. And I think they just don't want to be the account that only has 100 followers or 10 followers and not getting any views because they're afraid that people are going to look at their TikTok and be like, what the heck's going on? But you can't get too romantic over one platform over the other, because if Instagram decided to shut down tomorrow and you have all your eggs in that basket, now you're starting over now just later. So I think it's really just getting over that, like doing something new, or because you don't want to suck at it. But you're going to suck at it. The algorithm has to take time to start pushing you out. To be honest, mine isn't doing that great, but I still have to post stuff there just because you never know. I might find the one business owner's wife who is laying in bed just scrolling TikTok who says, hey, honey, you need to check this out. This guy said something that you were just talking about the other day at dinner. That's all it takes is that one video, and then you can turn things around.
Yeah, absolutely. Like what is big misconception or like a false belief around video, especially for people who are new to using it?
I think we kind of touched on it. I think the biggest misconception is it's for marketing and for large companies. And I think a lot of people just think like, oh, I'm not there yet. I can't be using it. It's not going to help me. I don't know. Marketing gets the scraps of any budget if there is a budget. But I think a lot of people just have to start thinking deeper about what challenges is their business facing, and then start saying, like, just kind of play that game. Like, well, if I had a video here, would that help me? What do I find myself repeating over and over? Or what don't people understand? Or what are things like I usually tell people when coming up with ideas, like, what do you rant about in the car? Like so many times, like, man, I wish people just knew this, or people just need to think of it like this, and just say that. And I think a lot of people also think that video for your business has to be super buttoned up and professional, which it actually probably shouldn't be. And I tell people, like, yes, you want to be professional and show your expertise, but I think people really appreciate connecting with humans over brands. That's why Elon Musk is so successful. If he leaves Tesla, everybody's going to sell their Tesla stock. People are connected with him. They don't really care about the business he's built as much. But I tell people, like, don't worry about being perfect, and think of it as like, if you met someone on the street, would you immediately go into like, oh, this is my business and this is how I like to help my customers? No, you just talk to them. And I think a lot of people kind of have to get over certain things of like, video is not for me. I don't know what to say. My business isn't big enough. Video is for everybody. And like you said, it's not going away. And the sooner you get on board with that, the better. Because I actually put a post out the other day that if businesses don't get on board with video in some way, by 2025, a lot are going to fail.
Yeah, that was perfect. So strong finisher. Tyler, thank you so much for coming on. To everyone else, I hope you enjoyed this episode. It would mean the world to me if you would leave a review. If you've been enjoying this format, this content, I would love to know more of what people are struggling with, questions they might have, and we can address it in future episodes. So thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching this episode of CEOs on Video. I hope you got something valuable from it. If you liked this episode of CEOs on Video, be sure to let us know by giving us a follow. Leave us a rating on Apple Music. It would mean the world to us. So let us know what you liked, what you didn't, and if there's anything that we can do to help you, be sure to reach out. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you on the next one.